two. Um, the, it's actually slotted for 7 parts. I don't know. It might be only five. We'll see how it goes. I do talk a lot, so it may go to seven. All right, but we're hitting it. Here we go on part two. So last week, just to recap really quickly, we talked about, know the part, uh, look the part, know the part, do the part. We also we start looking at the eight topics that we want to get you everybody into the mindset of a wing official. So remember, part of this level one certification is covering the wing official position. The other positions we'll cover when we cover level two, level three, and level four. So again, I want to at this time I want to talk about, like, again, I just want everybody to understand where my mind is at, why we're even doing this, and where all this came from. So it's very little things that I can recall of what like inspired me to continue on this and to come up with PGO Academy. One of the quotes that I've read, and we're going to look at here shortly, that inspired me, that I talk about a lot. If you haven't heard this quote, you'll hear it now, and you'll probably hear it again in the future, because these are one of the quotes that inspired me to even do this PGO Academy to begin with. And that quote is this: knowledge without practice is useless, and practice without knowledge is dangerous. Now, I don't know all the other Confucius quotes. I know when I saw this quote, it really resonated with me. And what I did was change the words to, because I like to have with my teaching background, and we teaching things, they always say, either have each word begins with an E or a letter, the same letter or whatever. And so one of our teaching fundamentals is education, experience, and evaluation. So when I was looking at this, when I looked at knowledge, I changed that for education. And when I looked at practice, I changed that to experience. So if you read it in that format, it says education without experience is useless, and experience without knowledge is dangerous. And why that meant so much to me, and we're going to look at a metaphor here in a second. It's like, in the world of officiating, like I said, one of our biggest methods of training is fake it until you make it. A lot of people shun the educational factor when it gets down to officiating. They spend a lot more time on the experience part, maybe sprinkle a little evaluation on it, but they really just stay away from the education part. So let's look at this and look at my metaphor, and let's see if I can explain why this part of your training is so important, more than just getting on the field and just doing the work. So uh, let's look at let's look at the metaphor of a dog with a leash, and as our primary metaphor. Now, don't get too deep with this metaphor. It's just a simple metaphor. It's a lot of what ifs, but that's not the fact. That's not what I'm trying to convey. So let's just stick with the simple version that fits the narrative of today's lesson. Okay, so if if we had a leash and we call that leash education or knowledge, and then we have a dog and we call that dog experience or practice. Now let's go back and look at the quote from Confucius. It says, knowledge without practice is useless. So that's saying, like, let's say you went and bought a leash, and I went to the store and I bought a leash, and they say, oh, what kind of dog you have? And I go, I don't have a dog. And they're looking at me like, was it for a cat? No, I don't have a cat. And it's like, so why are you buying the leash? You know, at this point, just getting an education and not practicing that education, or not putting not getting experience associated with that education, is useless. Having knowledge and not putting that knowledge to work is useless, right? So let's look at the other part of that. Practice without knowledge is dangerous. So this is on the flip side of the coin, and it raised the elevation of of the importance of having some type of knowledge before you get any experience. So let's say I had a dog without a leash, and this dog right here is actually my dog. His name is Blue. He had blue eyes when he was younger, and I didn't name him, but the name stuck. His name is Blue. Well, even though Blue is a nice dog and he's not dangerous, if he's go out there and I didn't bring a leash, sometimes he like to run off. Let's say Blue is not trained. Again, we're not going to go too deep into the metaphor, but Blue runs up to someone. That person thinking that this dog is dangerous will either run, trip, fall, hurt themselves, whatever the case may be, because the dog is not on a leash. And so the dog appears to be dangerous. And so in this metaphor, in this quote, it tells me that there's a lot of fish out there who have experience, but they don't have any education. And then I hear people say, well, experience is like the number one. Experience is better than education because you can learn from experience and blah blah blah. That may be case. There's two different types of experience, right? You have the generalization of experience and you have control experience. What I mean by that? Well, if I go touch a hot stove and I burn myself, I'm going to experience the pain and realize I shouldn't touch anything hot. However, if I go in an operating room and want to perform a hernia as a doctor, what I'm gonna get out there, and I'm sure they did it back in the dark ages. I'm gonna cut the person open, and if he dies or she dies, hey, I got the experience. I keep going until my first patient lives. No, under those circumstances, you need to have a control experience because as a doctor, that is a skilled position. Well, guess what? As a game official, it's a skilled position, right? You're not going to learn how to be a game official by just stepping on the field and just figuring it out. There has to be a balance of education in the midst of that experience, right? That's why it says practice without knowledge is dangerous, right? People lose games. We hold such a pivotal role. And you got officials out there who say, oh, I got 20 years of experience, or I got 10 years of experience. But then when you talk to them and you ask them, well, okay, do you have a rule book? Education? No. Do you have a mechanics manual? Education? No. Do you have a case book? Education? No. But yet they're relying everything on their experience. And don't get me wrong, they probably learn how to be great game managers. But mostly they're bullies. They're not, they're masquerading as game officials. They're not game officials because they've never been educated. And so that's the whole purpose of PGO Academy, is to give you that education and to couple that with experience. Now, there's one we're missing, right? What about evaluation? Well, evaluation is the hand that holds the leash. So if we put this all together, is education what guides your experience? And it's the evaluation that keeps you on the right path. So you can even have a rule book. You can have a mechanics manual. And you can go out there and get the experience. But if you're not being evaluated, and right, when you're holding a leash, you can pull your dog or your animal and like, no, come back over here, come on the path, you can't go over there. No, and that's how evaluation fits in all of this. So like you go, like we train you right now, and then we go out there and evaluate you, and we're talking about goal line mechanics, and you don't close down the goal line mechanics. I'm gonna remind you, hey, remember, you've been educated, but you didn't close down. Oh yeah, you're right. So we're going to evaluate you and keep you on track. It's like a sniper with a rifle, and he got to tweak the calibers because of the wind or what factors like that. So that's the whole purpose of PGO Academy. And I just want to put that out there again. I love to just talk about different, for you to know my mindset and why we do what we do. And this is one of the pillars of PGO Academy, is education, experience with evaluation. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to be talking about the 8 topics intended to get you into a wing official's mindset. So we talked about the starting position. We talked about crew communication. So we're going to have a lofty goal today. We're going to try to complete pre-snap, stop clock mechanics, squaring off, and the downfield foot. Now, the reason why I selected these items we're speaking about, is because when I go out and I evaluate officials and I go out and I work with other officials, these are the areas I see that we need the most work on. These are the areas where I see that we're slacking in and we got to get better at. So it's about iron and sharpening iron. It's about we all been on the same page. So when you get out there, I can say you remember that we talked about this, and you be like, "Oh yes, that's right. Let's. I got to work on that." Okay, so here we go. So the first thing is pre-snap, and out of the official's edge or the meeting out of the box. Um, this was one of the topics that they spoke about in before the snap, and it's talking about develop a pre-snap routine. It is vital for officials to have a consistent pre-snap routine. A good way to miss something important or mess up a call is to leave out some parts of your pre-snap routine. Although unusual things can crop up that can interfere with our routine, we need to make a conscious effort to stick with it 100% of the time. If you're a newer official who's not sure of the elements of a good pre snap routine for your position, get with a veteran who can help you out. And that's what we're here for today. I'm a veteran and we're going to help out our new officials. You'll find that consistency will improve your and the crew's game performance. Now, if you look at all the underlining parts of this whole paragraph, and we want to get a nutshell out of it, it is vital to stick with it 100% of the time. That consistency will improve your game performance. So it's very important that we have a pre-snap routine, and we're going to talk about it. But before I actually talk about that, I want to talk about something just a little bit. Bear with me. Out of the Successful Sports Officiating book, it says dead ball officiating is attending with the keen eye to participants after a play has been completed. Maybe that's what I got to deal with the pre-snap routine. Well, we're going to get to it. Just bear with me. So one of the most important things of officiating is what we call dead ball officiating. Basically, that means that after the play is over, that we don't turn our heads. We maintain a visual guidance over the players until they separate and they get to their side of the football to make sure that there's no late hits, there's nothing going on that will cause a foul. This is what as part of our preventive officiating. So we do dead ball officiating. In the manual, it gives some actions of what we can do for dead ball officiating. It says sound the whistle sharply. Sounding the whistle sharply contributes to the reduction of fouls. Calling to players saying, that's all, that's enough, or don't hit him after the ball is dead, either inbounds or out of bounds, frequently will deter a player from making late contact, thereby fouling. When a kick goes out of bounds, all game officials can call to players, the ball is out of bounds. So this is all part of dead ball officiating. This is all part of things that we can do as wing officials when we see a player go out of bounds, or we blow the whistle because forward progress is stopped. Just blowing the whistle is sometimes not enough. Blow the whistle and start yelling out. Start calling out, hey, no hit, all that stuff like that. Now, dead ball officiating a lot of time is contributed to after the play is over. However, the pre-snap routine is also part of dead ball officiating. What I found out, and a lot of time what I see on the field is that a lot of officials check out mentally once the play is over. All right. Once the ball is dead and we make sure we do our little dead ball officiating and everybody's on their side of the field, I see a lot of my wing officials holding these long, elaborate conversations with coaches and players and fans or whoever on the sideline, laughing and joking, like they just checked out mentally, like they don't have a job to do. Dead ball officiating is not just only making sure that once the play is over, that everybody on their side, there's nobody late hit, there's also some parts of the pre-snap routine. And if you look here on the manual page 53, this is referring to the line of scrimmage. And from a scrimmage play, after the ball is spotted, and it lists a laundry list of things that as a wing official, you should be doing. So there's no time to be talking and joking and having all these uh sidebar, or I guess sideline conversations when you have a job to do. You're there being paid. You have a job to do. That job is not holding conversations on the sideline. Unless the coach asks you what down it is, or unless the coach asks you how many timeouts they have, or are you trying to tell the coach to back up, or they have a question about a play or a foul that was called. Those should be limited to the conversations that we have with a coach, not where you're going out tonight, not what you're doing after the game is over, not this or not that. That is not your job, right? You're not there for that. And if you look at this list, position, strata, we already discussed that last week. Indicate the number of the next down on your chest at the official signal down. Extend your arm and hold until the snap is indicated player close to you is off the line of scrimmage. Count B players, indicate to the back judge that you have counted the defense. Identify eligible receivers. Be alert for illegal substitution, checking, and again, list 5 different things that we should be checking. This is part of dead ball officiating. This is part of our jobs, and we need to, as wing officials, we need to be doing this. And when we come out there and evaluate you for your certification, your white grade, that's what we're going to be looking at. Are you having all these conversations on the sideline? Are you doing your job? Now, going over this, and as I was looking over this before, I was like, man, this is a lot of information, and it's kind of like all over the place, and there's a lot of things going on there. So I've been trying to develop an acronym that will help wing officials to be able to just go through it conscientious through their minds and do the checklist, do their pre-snap routine, and making sure that, okay, I got everything checked. I'm ready to go, like a pilot does for a pre-flight. You want to make sure you do your pre-snap routine. So I have it developed into a pun, which is snap, pre-snap, snap. It worked out great. So now, believe it or not, it's every time I think about this, it gets more and more developed, right? I came up with something very loose the first time, and then you're gonna see a little bit more on this one here if you already heard this before from me. But this is the acronym as a wing official that I want to make that you memorize and understand that when you get on that sideline, that you're going through your pre-snap routine. You're going through your pre-snap checklist. And again, these are things that I see that we miss all the time, and when we need to get better at it, right? So the first one is S. Signal. B refers to the defense. Count. Now, this is something that I see a lot of officials missing. Some of them do it, some of them don't. They go a whole game without counting the defense. And if they count the defense, they're definitely not signaling the count, which you're supposed to do. You're supposed to hold that hand out front, and you're supposed to say, I have 11, or I have 10, or I have more than 11. But communication, as we discussed last week, is very important, and it's part of your job. And you will get dinged on your evaluation if you're not signaling your defense. All right. The other one is signal the number of the current down. Pretty much don't have a hard time with officials doing that. They pretty much always bring up the hand, saying second and third down. Sometimes they don't. I've done a game where we did great the first half, and the second half, everybody stopped signaling. Nobody's signaling it down. I'm working the chains. I'm holding it down up, and I'm looking at everyone else on the field, and no one's throwing up their hands. No one's saying what down it is. Matter of fact, even people stop even counting. So These are things that you do not stop. You got to be very vigilant and very alert to continue this part of it. So S, signal B, and signal the number of the current down. N, neutral zone infractions, and then you can also tack on their false starts. So believe it or not, if you've been in the first part of this training when we went over the rules, you'll know that there's actually two different distinctive neutral zone infractions. The neutral zone infraction before the snapper put his hands on the ball, and the neutral zone infraction after the snapper put his hands on the ball or her hands on the ball. So we're not going to litigate that. That's in Rule 7, Part 1 and 2 of the general overview course that we cover that. But believe it or not, there's actually two different type of neutral zone infractions that can happen before and after the snapper puts his hands on the ball. A, obviously A refers to offense in the rule book. So A backs in the backfield. So as a wing official, you have the primary responsibility, wing officials, to ensure that you have only 4 backs in the field. It's not the referees, it's not the umpires, it is the wing officials. Now I see some referees try to make that call. It is not their call because they don't see down the line. They can't see that imaginary line. They're not in position to make that call. So that lines up to the wing officials. Sorry about that. Go back. And P is position of the offensive line and backs are legal. So in this position, and you saw the other slide, we're going to be talking about that for a little bit because it is a pet peeve of mine. And why not dive into it just a little bit? Because I definitely see this not being addressed. And I know a lot of officials don't call this. And if you don't want to call it, that's fine. But we should always address it to the offensive coordinator. We should always address it to the coach, even though it might be something that you feel that is very trivial and you don't want to discuss. It's still a rule, just like encroachment, just like false start, just like holding is. It is a rule, and I want to address it because we see it heavy a lot in youth football, and they just do it over and over again. I always address it. Honestly, I might not always call it, but I'm always going to acknowledge it and address it to the coaches. So in that position, before we go to that, you're also looking for anyone covered up, and everybody in any inside receiver covered up, because they become an ineligible receiver. So what do I mean by position? On here, you see two different clips. And the one to the left that's legal, number 88. 88 is considered to be in a legal position because no part of 88 is breaking the imaginary line of the snapper. 88 is want to be considered in the backfield. If you look at on the right side, 88 is in an illegal position because he's breaking the imaginary line of the snapper. So that makes him in an illegal position. He has to not break the waistline of the snapper. Now, to go in a little further to that, if you look at this illegal position part 2, he's not breaking the imaginary line of the snapper, but he is breaking the imaginary line of the teammates, which again would make him in an illegal position. Now, I know we don't call that's trivial. I got it. Now, in the rules, it says this: a back, if any A player who's a back is any A player who has no part of his body breaking the plane of an imaginary line drawn parallel to the line of scrimmage through the waistline of the nearest teammate who is legally on the line, except for the player under the snapper who is considered a back. If we go a little further here, what you'll see is this player right here, and you see this a lot in youth football. They're trying to do a power right. They're gonna run right, and what they'll do, they'll stack up 2 other backs to the right or left of the quarterback, and sometimes they have their hands on the waistline of their teammate who's on the line of scrimmage. So like literally, they're breaking the waistline of the players on the line of scrimmage. That is an illegal position. Rule 723. If the ball is snapped, this would be an illegal formation foul at the snap of all A players who are not on their line at the snap. Only one player may penetrate through the waistline of the nearest teammate who is on the line, and he must be in position to receive the snap, even though he is not required to receive it. So that means you can snap it between his legs and they can go to someone else, but he has to be in that position as though he's going to receive the snap. But this is what we see, and then every time I see it, I say, Coach, they got to back up. Coach, they're too close. I might let the play go, and I might say, Coach, you can't do that. I remember I did a tournament, and one of the coaches, he's a very intelligent coach. He pretty much know a lot of the rules, but he don't mind getting away with something if you allow him to. So I remember we was doing the game. I said, hey, Coach, they got to back up. They're too close. Said, yeah, I know, but man, if you wasn't going to say anything, I wasn't going to say anything. So, it was like, it's up to you to say it. If not, I'm going to run this all day. So he told, hey, guys, y'all back up. Y'all back up. Y'all back up. He knew that was an illegal position. But, hey, majority of the uneducated officials will not think it's illegal and won't say anything. So I just wanted to throw that in there because, again, I'll be honest, a lot of officials don't make this call. If your referee tells you that they don't make that call, I guess you're not making that call that day. But the thing is, there's nothing wrong with educating the coaches as we go through this our journey to say, hey, Coach, I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to inspire you, right? Just got to back them players up a little bit. They can't be breaking the waistline of those on the line of scrimmage, right? All right. So in the fairness, I came up with an acronym for what you should be doing, dead ball officiating before the ball is kicked. All right. I came up with this week. I was like, hey, pre-snap, but what about the pre-kick? Because there are pre-kicks or free kick. And again, you're not there to check out mentally and to have conversations on the sideline and then just they'll be out there just enjoying yourself, laughing away. You have a job to do. So what is the acronym for kick and what you should be doing? K, know your initial kickoff position. All right. So if you're a line judge, and we're going to go through this, but I said line judge, you're on the 50-yard line, but your initial position is to the numbers to make sure that all the receiving team are at their restraining line. If it's a 5-man, as a back judge, on a 5-man head linesman, you're on a 30-yard line. If it's a 4-man head linesman, you're on a 40-yard line. You're going to go to the center of the field. You're going to hand the ball to the kicker. You're going to point to the white hat and tell him not to kick the ball until the white hat blows the whistle or the referee blows the whistle. And then you're going to go back to your side. On this part here, the I, wing officials, you're going to make sure all individuals and coaches are in their proper location. That means off the sideline. That means back up, give us some room to work because we got work to do. So back up. And then you're also going to indicate you are ready by raising your arm. Now, it's something about raising your arm. It says, you put to count your respective teams. The things that they don't want you to do is, unless you have 11 on the field, don't raise your hand. All right. If there's 12, don't raise your hand. Make sure it's on 11. We're never going to allow a kickoff to happen with 12 players on the field. We're never going to let a kickoff happen with only 10 players on the field. So if you're back to that team that's having the issue of either not enough or too many, you allow, hey, coach, count your players. We got to get this game going. Now, who do you count? Line judge, you count K. I know a lot of line judges that they count R. No, whoever has the receipt, if it's the bike judge and a 5-man, or it's going to be the head linesman and the 4 crew mechanics, the head linesman or the bike judge and the line judge counts K. All right. Then the umpire, the referee, and the umpire and the head linesman count R. All right. And then know your coverage area. What do you mean by that? So this is your coverage area. It might be a little fuzzy. Apologize for the picture, but this is and this is another concern that I see. Everybody want to be a ball watcher. Everybody want to be watching the ball. They see the ball kick, they follow the ball. That's not what you're supposed to be doing. You're supposed to stay within your area and make and watch blocks. Are there illegal blocks? Am I blocking below the waist? Is there any blocking the backs? Is there any holding going on? By either team. And I know we showed a video a while back about somebody getting blasted after the kick was over because one of the officials was not in their zone. They were looking way somewhere else they shouldn't have been looking. On top of this is one thing I also want to note because I see this happen a lot as well. In the 5 crew mechanics, head linesman and umpire, you will only signal for the clock to start if the ball is even or upfield from you. So I see a lot of umpires, the ball will be kicked and the ball will go past them and they still wind the clock. It's like, why are you even looking back there? You have your own area to look. So unless the kick, so that means the line judge and back judge will never wind the clock. But if the ball comes in front of the head linesman on a 30-yard line up, then all 3 is going to wind the clock. If the ball gets to the 25 or the 20, then the umpire and referee will wind the clock. If the ball go past the 20, only the referee will wind the clock. The umpire and the head linesman will not wind the clock. This is per mechanics manual. I know you're going to do what you want to do. It's my job just to tell you what the rule book, what the mechanics manual says, right? All right, so let's talk about stop clock mechanics. Again, we're addressing issues that I see when I come out there and watch games where and I watch videos. No matter they got 20 years of experience, it never changes. The first thing is at the end of a free or scrimmage kick. When we see these kicks going off, and the end of the kick, some people raise their hands up as, like I said, a dead ball. Some people just walk in and grab the ball. Everyone should be stopping the clock at the end of a free kick or scrimmage kick. It's a change of possession. We all should be stopping the clock. We shouldn't be walking in with our hand up. We shouldn't be walking in trying to get the ball. Everybody, once the whistle blows, we stop the clock. Again, this is something I see a lot that a lot of officials ain't doing. And this tells me if you're trained or untrained. This tells me if you're masquerading as a game official or you've been trained as a game official. It's all about how you work and the nuances and the little small things. The coach is not going to recognize it. Players not going to recognize it. But, I see it. All right, one of the other things is after a dead or live ball foul. I see officials blow the whistle. I got false start. Never use the stop clock signal. I see officials throw a flag, run down the field. Once the play over, they'll blow their whistle, but they're not stopping the clock. Again, these are stop clock mechanics that we all should be doing. If it's a dead ball foul, it should go like this: whistle, flag, stop clock. Whistle, flag, stop clock. If it's a live ball foul, you're going to throw the flag, you're going to let the play in, and then you're going to blow the whistle and then stop the clock. But there should always be a stop clock mechanics. I remember back years ago when I was on the field, I used to be very, very, I used to be a beast. I used to be a monster. Fish come in, I got a foul. I said, no, you don't. You're not stopping the clock. And they'd be like, oh, I'm bad. I used to call you out on the field a lot back in the day. But I don't do it no more. I got a little older and a little mature. I don't do it no more. But guys, officials, guardians, learn how to stop the clock when you're supposed to. Another area that we see officials not stopping clocks is after fourth down. After fourth down if it's fourth down, automatically, there's no where the ball is at. There's no let me see what happened. On fourth down, everyone should be stopping the clock. Because on fourth down, there's only 2 things that happen. There's a change of possession or there's a first down. Either one that happened requires an official timeout. So on fourth down, we automatically stop the clock. It's not throwing your hand up and then looking to see if it's a first down, or throwing your hand up and that's it. No, we all automatically stop the clock on fourth down. And the last one is before you get to the out of bounds spot or dead ball spot on a first down. So I see a lot of officials, a player step out of bounds, and they'll blow the whistle, but they'll run up to where they went out of bounds, turn around, and then stop the clock. All right. Or the player will get a first down, they'll run up, turn in, and then stop the clock. Right. So when a player goes out of bounds, before you get there, you're blowing your whistle, stopping the clock, because those seconds are crucial in a game, and we don't want a team. One of the analogies, one of the books I read when discussing this, said there was 14 seconds on the clock, and the team was down by 4 points, and they got to the 4-yard line, but when the player ran out of bounds, if the player ran out of bounds, only 4 seconds on the clock. Now, we trailing the play. So about time the official got to the spot to stop the clock, time already ran out. So they lost a down. They lost an opportunity to win the game because it was fourth and goal, because the game official waited till he got to the spot to stop the clock. So what they're asking us to do at the national level is to, when you see them go out of bounds, you see the player go out of bounds, stop the clock as you're going to the spot. Don't wait until you get to the spot. Stop the clock before you get to the spot. All right. That's it for stop clock mechanics. All right. Let's talk about squaring off. In the mechanics manual, it says square off forward progress by moving down the sideline to the spot of the ball became dead, and then move perpendicular in towards the center of the field, no further than the 9-yard mark. Now, very self-explanatory, but before I dive into that, I want to talk about forward progress. In the Prep Football Manual 2021, it says each football official is responsible for a specific set of tasks before, during, and after a down. For wing officials, position on the line of scrimmage during a down, correctly marking forward progress is arguably their most important responsibility. When the ball is dead by rule, wing officials must simultaneously mark the forward progress spot and be good dead ball officials. I liked that because we just talked about being a good dead ball official. When I read that, I was like, oh, I got to include that into the into the writing. So excerpt. So forward progress. What is forward progress? Forward progress is the end of advancement of the ball toward the opponent's goal line, and it's determined the dead ball spot. Now, one of the issues I see, especially with new officials, is moving with the player when forward progress is stopped. So in here it says A1's forward progress is stopped and at A, but he stays on his feet, then he's shoved or falls backwards and goes out of bounds in B. The ball should be spotted at the hash mark of team's 838-yard line, because that's as far as A1 advanced. The game clock should continue to run. So what I normally see is this. If you look at the referee on the side, what I see is most young officials will go back to where they went out of bounds, and I kind of like understand what they're doing. They think they're officiating, like they see the player get touched, hit, and they want to stay with the play, so they feel that they're supposed to back up with the players, to monitor and make sure everything is okay, and then they stop there, not realizing that they gave up forward progress. So an understanding forward progress is that a player does not lose the yards they gain, even though they get pushed backwards. I know it's very elementary to some, but for our new officials who are going to watch these videos or here today, we need to let them know that We're not. You're not going to give. You're not. They can't lose space. Now, I'm not going to go into the big lab where they get hit and break off, or all the other nuances of being tackled and pushed backwards. We're just going to leave it here, but understand that forward progress. Also, because they got pushed back, forward progress ended while the player was inbound. So that means that the clock will continue to run. We will not stop the clock because the player got pushed out of bounds backwards, because the forward progress, the down ended when the player was inbound. On this one, we see that A1 is driven out of bounds sideways. A1 is given the benefit of the furthest advance. His progress was stopped in bounds. The clock should continue to run. So again, you're getting pushed out of bounds sideways, you're getting pushed out of bounds backwards. Your forward progress was stopped inbound, and we're going to wind the clock twice. Right? We're going to let the clock operator know to keep the clock running. The last one, A1 is tackled from behind. A1 advances in because he went out of bounds, and the ball is spotted where it's crossed the sideline. Because A1's progress ended out of bounds, the game clock should be stopped. So, I know we discussed this in the general rules, but there's 3 ways to go out of bounds on the sideline: forward, sideways, and backwards. Only one of those will stop the clock, and that's going out of bounds forward. All right. All right. So let's look at some forward progress bullet points real fast. The linesman and line judge are primarily responsible for forward progress. They're the primary ones that has it. The wing official responsible for determining the forward progress spot is the one who can actually see the ball. When the players declare dead, when the players declare dead, not based on what side of the field the play ends. Now, these are commentaries. These are not like a mechanics manual. I know some people have a little objection to that comment, because if it's on their side, they should get the spot. But if you know you didn't see the ball, and you got somebody on the other side say, I got the spot, mirror that person. If you see the ball, you see it. If you don't, you don't. It's not about who's bigger and better. When it get down to officiating, we want to make sure we get the right spot. Umpires should not rule on forward progress because they don't have the proper angle to tell where the ball is located when the knees hit the ground, when the knees is down. Because we don't spot the ball where the knee is at. We spot the ball where the ball is at. So wing officials, be very careful when you see a player go down with their knee. You don't concentrate on the knee. Concentrate on where the ball is at when the knee hit. So if the ball is an advance of me when my knee touched the ground, I'm going to come up to the ball. I'm not going to come up to where my knee is at. All right. There's a lot of officials who will spot the ball erroneously because they see the knee down. And I mean, don't get me wrong. If I had the ball like this, it might be where the knee is at, right? If I have the ball like this, it's going to be where the ball is at, right? So it just find the ball, get the spot, and not cheat a team out of good yardage because you're looking at his knee or her knee and want to spot it at the knee. The referee may get forward progress when the passer is down behind the line and the wing officials are downfield and pass coverage. So, if the quarterback sack or sometimes the referee may get the forward progress spot. All right. The back judge shouldn't concentrate on the ruling on the runner and will rarely have forward progress. Right. All right. So squaring off. This is from NFL line judge out of the power position working the wings. Line judge Mark, I can't say his last name. So the most important part of forward progress is squaring off on the sideline before you ever start onto the field of play, and then bursting onto the field of play hard, along with head linesman and selling the spot with authority. So it's like, let's think about military. We don't round off, we don't angle off. Like, let's say the line judge angled toward the ball, or he came in and round off. It's a military square off. So you're gonna run down the sideline. You're gonna get to the spot, and you're gonna turn in at a 90-degree turn, just like we read in the beginning. That's how you square off We do not, again, round off and stuff like that. And again, that's things that as you've been evaluated, we may bring to your attention. Hey, you need to square off. You're rounding. Are you angling in on the spot? All right. The last thing we're going to talk about is the downfield foot. Right. In the mechanics manual, it says be alert for quick plays into the line and assist in marking forward progress with downfield foot. Also says in that same paragraph, sound the whistle when the ball becomes dead, mark forward progress with the downfield foot. What is downfield foot? It is the goal. It's toward the goal line of the defense. So basically, we should always mark the ball with the foot closer to the defense. Now I see officials mark the foot with their front foot and the upfield foot, if you want to be terminology correct. And but what's the big difference? I mean, front foot, back foot. It's about front is about uniformity. All right. It's about this is what the mechanics manual asks us to do. And two, it lets me know if you've been trained or if you haven't been trained. Because I tell you, when you work with me, and I have a couple of officials in mind right now. I'm not going to name them. When I'm spotting the ball, I remember when I first started working with them, they was spotting the ball with the upfield foot, and I'd be like, your downfield foot. And this is how iron sharpen iron. This is how we all grow and learn together. So what I would do is when I was spotting the ball, if they gave me the wrong foot, I would hold the ball. I would go and I would give them a look. And then, and they'll switch their foot, and then I'll spot the ball. And I had to do that for several times because I want that official to be at the top of their game because they get evaluated. They're going to go to college. They're going to get evaluated somewhere else. We're going to notice that. I always say we're like women when they get down to officiating. You know, you can see a woman and you can say, "Oh man, she's so fine," and then a girl will be like, "Really? Man, her nails not done. Her acrylics is showing. Her shoes are not matching her dress or her bag," and we're looking like, "But she looked good to me." When it get down to officiating, that's how we are, right? We can, you can be out there, and we're gonna critique you. We're gonna see all of the smaller things that no one's going to see because we know what you're supposed to be doing. All right. So in regards to officiating and the things we went over today, work with each other. When you work with somebody, you see somebody missing something, go ahead and just, hey, this is that, work with each other. All right. So that is it. Let me go ahead and